Namaskara. Good evening. I'll have to talk in English. Kannada ಆಯ್ತು, Tamil ಆಯ್ತು, so English. So when Sriram uncle asked me to talk today, I was shocked. That was my first reaction because I thought, in the presence of such senior, wise people, what do I have to say? I mean, many of you, either through experiences in life or through knowledge, you know much more and have much more worthy things to talk about compared to someone who's just 30 years old and hasn't really experienced much of the world. But then I even tried reasoning with him that it doesn't make sense for me to talk here today. So then he told me, no, Jeeyar Swamiji said you should be one of the speakers today. And then I had no arguments, to argue with. But then that struck me. This is one quality that very few people have, and I think G.S. Swamiji has. And that quality is that he is willing to listen to any voice, be it a loud voice, be it a soft voice, be it a coarse voice, be it a sweet voice, be it an agreeable voice, or be it a disagreeable voice, right? Be it knowledgeable or be it naive, be it flattering or be it critical. Very few of us can listen to these two extremes without in the same way. So, I mean that's what I want to talk about today. This quality of GF that I wish at some point I can also imbibe in me. So, how many of us have had a long conversation with someone much older to us, or someone much younger to us, or someone that we don't agree with? Right? By conversation, I mean a proper conversation where each person presents their point of view and there's a discussion. Not the mindless shouting that we see on all our national televisions, but a proper conversation. Because when we talk to someone younger to us, we tend to preach to them, right? When we talk to someone older to us, we just quietly listen to whatever they say, whether we agree or disagree, we just nod our head in obedience. It's not a conversation. And then when we talk to someone whose opinion we disagree with, we either get angry and we shout, right? Or some of us will just quietly avoid talking to that person. Let me not talk to this person. I mean, anyway, he's going to say something that's going to make me angry, right? But G.R. Swamiji is the only person I know who can have a long discussion with another pontiff about philosophy or about the scriptures, and a few minutes later, he can have a conversation with a child about a toy. An equally engaging conversation, not just, a superficial, oh, ಈ ಮಗುನ್ ಮಾತಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು, so I'll just say something. No, there's equal intensity in both of these conversations, and I have observed that over the years with GR. So I have known GR since I was about 5 years old. Or rather, I should say GR has known me since I was a scrawny little child. But the one thing I remember about every time I meet him is that there's a conversation. It's not that he just, smiles or says, greets me for formality's sake. There's a conversation. As a 5-year-old, it was about a Panchatantra story. As a 10-year-old, the conversation was about the bullying I was undergoing in school. As a 15-year-old, it was about some teenage angst or some complaint I had against my parents. At 20 years of age, it was about what I wanted to study at university, what kind of a life I envisioned for myself. And now at 30 years old, it's about how to be a good educator, how to be a good citizen of this country. So every single time, there has been a conversation that I could take something from. So why is this quality so surprising? I mean, you would expect as human beings we should all have this quality, right? But we don't, right? So what amazes me is how does Jeeyar Swamiji have the time and the emotional bandwidth to engage with each one of us, right? And have a proper conversation with each one of us. I think you'll all agree. It doesn't matter if there are 500 people in the room, right? You will know that Jeeyar Swamiji spent half a minute or 1 minute and not just mindlessly, mindfully, he had a conversation with you, right? So many a times, I mean, after a long day at work, when you're back home, you don't even want to talk to people in your household, right? It's just ಊಟ ಕೇಳಿದೆ, TV ಲೇನ್ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. That's it, right? Do we have a conversation? We're so tired, or we've exhausted our emotional energies to have a conversation. So how does Jeeyar Swamiji do this? So again, that's another conversation I think I hope to have with you. So how does he make each one of us feel valued and respected? Right? How does he remember our joys and our sorrows? How does he remember our trials and our triumphs? He remembers both, right? And maybe the next time he'll ask you about it, whether you remember it or not. So, one example is while considering the decision to take up this position that he has as a Matta, he literally asked each and every person he knew whether or not he should take up this position. I think those of you who know him from this Purvashrama will agree with me. Literally everyone, including our driver, including me who was a teenager at that point in time. And not just again for the sake of asking, no, he wanted to know. So he asked me and I said, no, you shouldn't take up this position. Right? So then he probed me. It wasn't enough that I said no. He asked me why. Why do you say no? So one of the reasons that I gave him was that becoming a pontiff or taking up a position of such, stature, it would build a barrier between him and the people, right? And I didn't want I didn't want him to lose his relatability with all of us. I wanted him to remain as accessible as he was, even after he took up the post. But in my mind, the head, Matadipati means some, serious-looking old man, right? Who doesn't smile, um, who talks only about philosophy, some Sanskrit words that I don't understand, right? Or someone who has to follow a million rules. Nan higirbardu, hagirbardu. Like this is the idea I had in my mind of a Matadipati because this is what I had seen until then, right? So before Jeeyar took up his role, those of you who know him from then, I think one of the highlights of visiting his house was the food he used to cook himself. And more than that, he would serve it personally with a lot of affection. It doesn't matter if you are there till 11 in the night, you will get something to eat, right? So I didn't want to lose this aspect about Jeeyar Swamiji. But Jeeyar Swamiji, in his own way, cleared these apprehensions. So instead of the Matha becoming a barrier between him and us, he used it as a platform to reach out to more people in a bigger way. So instead of feeding a handful of family and friends and well-wishers, he now feeds hundreds and thousands, right? not just Malleshwaram, Menkote, Tonganur, Mysore, and other places across the country. Right? So now the whole world is his living room, and he's serving us affectionately. So especially during COVID-19, you could see this, this music, the Matha being used as a platform to reach out to not just people who come to the Matha on a daily basis, right? Not just people who follow this philosophy, but to everybody. So every other shopkeeper or homeless person in Malleshwaram had a place to come to every day to get a meal. So in this way, the Matha has become what a modern, contemporary Matha should be. So not just in terms of serving food, there were many activities that Swamiji was involved in before he became Jeeyar. And he continues to do that in a big scale, which is encouraging young artists, right? Musicians, dancers. The health schemes that he was a part of, the educational schemes that he was a part of, it's now reaching hundreds and thousands of people. So even last time he visited the school, he was speaking about the project at Tondanur, where students can learn through their tablets. They have access to the best features in, say, Bangalore or Mysore, right? So taking technology to them, so that just because they're in Pandavpura or Tondanur, it doesn't mean that quality of education they get should be bad. So I think Jeeyar Swamiji has managed to do what very few spiritual figures have been able to do. He has made the Matha a center of cultural life, of social life, of charity, and of spirituality. Right? It's rare to find a place that caters in all these fields. So it is a place for all of us, whether we seek to reach our goal through Karma Yoga, through Bhakti Yoga, through Raja Yoga, or through Jnana Yoga. So all of us can come here. It doesn't matter, which particular way you want to take to reach your goal. So I'll share one last anecdote, and this is more as a reminder, to myself, and that is once we were traveling to Mysore with Jeeyar Swamiji in the car. This was in his Purvashrama, and I was talking to him about all the bands that I was listening to, or the music bands that I was listening to. And Jeeyar Swamiji, being the open-minded and curious person that he is, he listened to my playlist all the way from Bangalore to Mysore. In contrast to that, at just 30 years of age, I refused to listen to even my mother's choice of music. So, it's a lesson for me. So, I count myself as fortunate to have such a great person as a friend, a guide, and a role model. I hope that I can imbibe in myself the qualities of Jeeyar that I have spoken about today. I know it's not an easy task to imbibe these qualities, but I think it's like Jeeyar Swamiji himself says, practice makes it perfect, right? With everything. So I also will, in my own way, be a drop of water in this mighty ocean of service to the society that Jeeyar Swamiji has set up. Thank you.